So
Yeah.
you were an operations executive in a
Yes.
global company that had
Yes.
a breach
Yes.
representing millions of dollars of losses. And
Yes.
I mentioned in the beginning that when we're talking about risk management within an organization, that culture affects the perspective about risk management. Can you
Yeah.
share a
Yeah.
little bit about what was the culture before the breach? What was the
Yeah.
culture during the breach? What was the culture immediately after the breach? And now, a couple of years removed, I'm glad you didn't say the organization. I know who it is, and we don't want to disparage anybody. But I think for
Right.
the audience, it would be extremely interesting to hear how were they looking at things before? How did they
Yeah.
look at them during and after? But then a couple of years removed, have they
Yeah.
grown back to complacency after throwing all the money at it to fix the problem, and now they're subject to another breach because we've fallen back into bad practice?
Yeah. That's a great point, Keon, and thanks for bringing that up. Culture is actually huge when it comes to this issue in particular. The prior culture was we'll handle cyber when we have time. We are focused on making money. So we're focused on revenue generation, and that culture permeated its way through the organization, even in our IT organization and in our CISO organization. And so the business units were pushing back on the IT organization and the security organization, saying, I can't afford to have, my platform down for X period of time, while all of these upgrades are being put in place. And so the the sense that got flowed through the organization was, okay, we'll wait. We'll wait until the next schedule maintenance, right? We'll wait. And of course, what happened is that during the time of us waiting, the bad guys got through. What that caused, as I was saying before, is just major financial issues, major operational issues that just cascaded through the entire organization. There were at that time four major business units, and all of our budgets were slashed. All of our budgets for new product introduction were slashed. All of that money was diverted towards security and to remediation of our platforms. And so where I had a pot of money that was budgeted for software engineers and for product leaders to put new products into the marketplace, I could no longer do that because all of that money now had to be diverted for security remediation. And it gets even more complicated when you have business partners from an indirect business perspective, um, that you have committed um, product to, right? You're their back end software product provider, that they are reselling your software. And I had to have some really tough conversations with some of my customers to say, as we've kind of gone through a breach, and we're going to have to push launching your particular product back a few months as we kind of make sure that we are, focused internally on managing the risk regarding the breach. So there's the old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of pain, or something like that. And I think that's absolutely right. It is, having lived through that, and having lived through going through detailed architectures of data flows to making sure that we had data encrypted. It's very painful. Coming out of that, kind of in the 2B, there is much more, obviously. There is a huge sensitivity now in terms of cyber and risk mitigation in terms of cyber. And now the cyber piece of the business is now being much more embedded in terms of how the organization actually works. And I'll kind of compare that to, I spent a great deal of my earlier career at different businesses at General Electric, at GE, and I was actually at GE, started my career during Jack Welch's reign at GE, when Jack was really infusing to the culture. It started out being that's kind of what somebody else does, and by the time Welch left, his goal, and it was implemented, was regardless of what your title was or function was within the company, Lean Six Sigma would be in the DNA of the company. And I think now what you're seeing within this particular company is cybersecurity and risk mitigation is now becoming a part of the DNA of the company, simply because of, when you lose millions of dollars in revenue and you, put millions of people at risk from a cybersecurity perspective, it changes the way you do business. It certainly should, I'll put it that way, change the way you do business. And in this particular organization, it did change the way the organization looks at cybersecurity. It's no longer kind of that backwater thing. It is now a key component of how the business goes to market. And that fundamentally was not the case prior.